Welcome back, Illumineers. We are heading into round three of a win-a-box tournament at Atlas Games. This is a core constructed tournament that we held at the end of March in partnership with Lorcana Cabana. And if you watched our Infinity tournament, you know that my game on stream did not go very well. So we'll see if I can redeem myself here. I'm Brandon on the left, playing against Eric. I'm on Purple Steel, Eric on Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, and this Ruby Amethyst is a deck that I feel like it's really kind of come out of the woodworks a little bit in the past maybe couple months or so of this latest core set. Um, Really an interesting deck and kind of fun to be able to watch and kind of see in action. Purple Steel, obviously a deck that we've had kind of in our top contentions for best decks. I think for since probably rotation.
A while. I think even the set before rotation, there was a purple steel build that was pretty solid into like the ruby sapphire control deck.
Yeah, it acted a little bit differently, I think. Likely utilizing the bounce package and some of those cards,
Definitely.
but definitely still kind of like that mid range a deck of just kind of playing a lot of characters and bodies that do things kind of as they enter.
So notably, I have played a lot of purple steel over the last several months. It's what I took to the DLC in Richmond, and I made a couple tweaks to the list at midnight the night before this tournament, which is always a wise decision. And you'll notice some of the tweaks that I made potentially here. And I really was expecting to see more dogs in our local meta, and that not didn't wind up being the case.
No, I mean, I would say our local meta tends to kind of shift pretty drastically. We've got a lot of people that can play quite a few different decks. People certainly have their favorites, but um, it's pretty difficult to kind of predict what folks will be on each given week. We do
So
see that
Eric starts
underdog
off.
coming out.
Yeah, I was going to say starts off with this Christopher Robin that my Captain Hook can take out. I would have preferred to see a Calhoun there.
Let me see a Palace. Is it Palace Guard? Okay, it's Palace Guard this
That
time,
one is
not
Palace
Royal
Guard.
Guard.
Yeah.
We do see Palace Guard and Tinkerbell coming down. This Tinkerbell is a really interesting card. I think kind of does the same role as the Captain Hook, but it is able to dodge some of the um, different cards in the format that care about your power being two or less. Under the Sea being kind of one of the examples of it. We see a Christopher Robin, a Doc, and a Genie in your hand here. It looks like, which isn't a three cost card, so kind of an interesting position to kind of be in here.
It
Oh,
is, and if you people who are familiar with Purple Steel, you really are relying on that three cost card so that you can set up a singing of Strength of a Raging Fire, and that's always something I'm really cognizant of when I build a Purple Steel list is how many three drops I'm on. And it looks like this day I was on 6, 9, 10, 14 three drops, so just kind of unfortunate that I didn't find one there.
yeah. I mean, being able to play that curve there. I mean, it looks like you have the other two pieces of that, which would be incredibly strong if you were able to kind of get that line out. I didn't see what card that you drew, but we
Yeah, I think it was another uninkable if I remember.
I that would
And
make
so
sense because we do see the strength kind of come down there as your ink to be able to get this genie out there, which I suspect if you had any other inkable card, you'd likely attempt to try to keep that strength.
absolutely. We know that Ruby Amethyst is unlike the Amber decks. There's really no way for them to take a song from your hand, so there's no concern with leaving that there for a while. But with this cat in play, this makes this such a tough spot here because I can take out this Christopher Robin, but We will likely see some cat shenanigans
Oh,
here.
it looks like it was a Calhoun and a Dock is what we've got left in your hand, and it'll be interesting to see what you kind of are able to pull off the top with that Dock. Because we do see the Headless Horseman in Eric's hand there, which is able to kind of come down on this next turn and take out the genie.
Looks like maybe I have a Madam Mim in hand as well. Tiny Adversary.
Yes, I think that was probably drawn off of the genie.
Yeah, and that's a Madam Mim is a card for me that has done a lot of work in the past, but really tough because Ruby Amethyst just plays Lumiere, which is just better.
Yeah, looks like we're opting for the cat here. That I think you were able to draw off the top this turn. I do think that card is very good to be able to get down. It'll be interesting to see if you opt for any challenges this turn. I feel like also we could just maybe see you boost and shift the damage from the Palace Guard over to the Tinkerbell.
Yeah, and I think what I'm contemplating here is, yeah, if there is any kind of challenge, but I know that we're going up to a potential headless horseman as well as, the genie can.
You can
It's
see
an
the Calhoun
interesting
come down.
choice on my part. Yeah.
I mean, if the next turn is Headless Horseman, the damage will still be there for you to be able to shift next turn, so I think holding off a turn makes sense.
And I think normally, you would question this quest with a genie and a cat in play, but I think knowing that Ruby Amethyst is going to play Headless Horseman, I'm sort of hoping at this point that, I just get these lore off of it. And it looks like, yeah, we do see that come down and take out the genie anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of a little bit interesting seeing that kind of come down on that turn. We do see another one in Eric's hand, but uh, it is kind of notable that he could have just taken it out with the cat and the genie and then kept that as an answer in his hand.
So Eric strategically doesn't turn anything sideways for me to get any kind of value off of this Calhoun.
And we do see the Demona in Eric's hand, which, especially with this horseman out on the field, can really kind of snowboard Eric's board into being able to kind of challenge and get favorable
Yeah.
trades.
This matchup is a lot of there's a lot of dependency on who winds up playing Demona first, and it looks like off of the dock. Oh, I didn't update my hand. We did choose to move that damage and take out the Tinkerbell.
And we do see
And
the
it looks like we
Demona
did,
and a Yzma
yeah.
in your hand.
Which something that is interesting here is, if Eric winds up playing a Demona,
Yep.
I'll be able to freeze his, but he is going to clear quite a bit of my board here.
I suspect everything but the dock. Yep. So every time one of your characters dies here or is banished, everything on Eric's side of the board will get an additional strength.
Yeah, I think something that is easily forgotten about the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, and interestingly, he leaves you with the Palace Guard here, which is able to just take out this cat and survive. Um, interesting that he wouldn't leave you with a dock that wouldn't be able to survive an attack into the cat.
So it looks like we play an Elsa, which can freeze Eric's Demona anyway, and now can clear some things up because this Palace Guard can also trade with the Headless Horseman.
Yep.
Unfortunately, though, leaving my Elsa vulnerable to a Genie challenge here.
Oh, and it looks like the hand that you've got here is 2 Demonas.
So we do choose to ink that Yzma. And I think we really see here just how powerful Eric playing his own Demona can be. A little surprised. I believe I have another Demona and a dock in hand that I didn't choose to ink that Demona.
Yeah. I mean, I guess next turn you get to kind of do both.
And I do freeze Eric's Demona again for another turn, which is helping a little bit slow him down.
But we do see another Genie and then a Dumbo come down. So Eric's ability to kind of like continue to just draw cards will be very, very strong. As well as you currently don't really have any evasives that actually answer these genies. So the amount of lore that he's going to be able to gain is going to be really difficult to kind of come back from.
Yeah, and we see him quest up to 13 here. This Headless Horseman having 2 lore is very
Yeah.
relevant. And I think I just see at that point there won't be any way to, stop him.
No, I mean especially in like this purple steel deck. I mean pretty similar to the amber steel deck that we got to see last round. They really aren't very good at coming back from a board where they're behind. They're very, very
Right.
good at being able to kind of squeak out some lore if they're kind of approaching that 20 range. Um, but they're also very, very good at being able to just kind of keep the board and keep it sturdy there. And I mean, a very, very notable thing is, I mean, if you had that 3 drop, that curve of being able to take out the cat and then play your own genie does prevent a lot of some of the kind of snowballing effects that Eric was able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think Purple Steel really thrives on that play Genie and sing Strength of a Raging Fire with a 3 drop. And if you get to do that, I would say more often than not, you wind up being in the driver's seat from that point forward. Maybe the exception being if you know, play in a mirror match and they wind up doing something very similar to remove your Genie, but that would be kind of hard to do. I do notice Eric does a really nice job of showing the camera his hand.
Yeah, I mean, especially because I mean these mats are not they're a little bit far away from the players. Just to try to make sure that they're centered in the table. So there is a little bit of a reach to being able to kind of get your hands or get the cards kind of in the middle of the mat like that. So yeah, we'll see. Kind of looks like we're getting Eric's kind of opening hand in here already. Um, we will have Eric on the play here, so he does have the ability to kind of lead out with either this Palace Guard, Tinkerbell, or Christopher Robin. Um, I suspect we'll see the Christopher Robin, but it'll be interesting to see if he opts for one of these one drops instead.
Yeah, and you see my hand here already kind of riddled with a few uninkables. I believe that adding a Fire the Cannons into the deck for this day was a questionable choice on my end, although many Purple Steel lists do run it. And it really was in my brain an answer for a Grandmother Willow, to be able to slow down a dog's deck. And the one dog's matchup that I did play, the Fire the Cannons, was relevant, but
Yep.
it got clogged up later on in the day.
But we do see you currently with the hand of being able to go 1, 2, 3 genie plus strength. So currently not looking like you're in a terrible position as far as these opening hands could go. I also
No.
think that this Fire of the Cannons could be fairly notable against some of these characters. I mean, notably, Headless Horseman only has 2 willpower, so it is able to take out some of these more late game threats.
Yeah, a Lumiere potentially that, is making a lot of math very challenging is another great use for it. And I think like you mentioned on Eric's side, interesting, does he choose to play the Christopher Robin, knowing that, a Captain Hook can clear it very quick, or he has a Tinkerbell in hand that,
Right.
can essentially prevent me from doing any free questing too.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit tough. I I suspect we see the Tinkerbell. Yeah.
And it looks like that. Yeah, the Christopher Robin hits the Inkwell.
I think that this purple red deck is a deck that goes a little bit larger than the purple steel deck, so opting for cards that can kind of just stall this board early and prevent some of the early lore that the purple steel decks are sometimes able to get, I do think is probably very very beneficial for this other purple deck.
So we ink a cat there. Not a card I typically want to see go into the Inkwell, so
Yeah,
I'm hoping
keeping the
there's
3 cost genie as opposed to the cat, I think is an interesting choice there. Unless we just have not seen your hand be updated, which is also
which is
very possible.
possible. I am admittedly not the best at doing that.
Plays a cobra. I'm going to guess we are very out of sync with what your hand looks like.
And maybe are we
But I suspect we still have the strength and the genie at the very least, and the fire the
I would
cannons.
think so, yeah. I was curious if we would pitch the Fire the
Ah,
Cannons.
we have just those 3. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, pitching the fire of the cannons there could have been a pretty useful play. Um, but it also could be quite useful here.
Looks like that was a second Cobra, which I
Yep.
don't love to see hitting the Inkwell, and one that we didn't get a trigger off of.
Now, an interesting choice here. Do we see you take out this Scrooge duck? Um, the Tinkerbell will then be able to challenge back into the Cobra, which is unfortunate, but that boosted Scrooge can kind of start to snowball and really get away from you, especially these steel decks that kind of need to be able to deal the damage to get through them.
Yeah, and it looks like I chose not to sing the strength there. Maybe hoping that we can get a genie or something like that instead.
Yeah, and you definitely an option here. I mean, the other 4 drop that we see in Eric's hand is this Iago. Um, but Eric here likely opting to kind of just build up some of these Scrooges and build for the Demona turn that is coming in about 2 turns here.
Looks like it was a Madam Mim tiny adversary off the top. And it looks like we elect to do the fire the cannons on the Lumiere.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if we opt for the strength here. At this point, doing so, I think it makes sense. Taking away the 5/5 Scrooge. Yep, and we do see that come down, and I think that makes sense. I mean, if you wait the additional turn, all of a sudden that becomes a 6/6, and
Right.
there is another 5/5 next to it, and we can see the other Scrooge boost itself up and challenge into this Cobra to live, but then it can get cleaned up by either the Captain Hook or the Calhoun.
Right. And I think what I remember here is we see this Iago in Eric's hand. And I think that comes down, and I really was at this point kind of kicking myself a little bit for having used the fire the cannons the turn before.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that getting that Lumiere off the field, I mean, it makes it so that Tinkerbell can't challenge into your Cobra, and it makes some of the other maths a little bit more tricky to be able to deal with. So we do see that challenge come through onto the Cobra from the Scrooge, potentially opening it up for that Scrooge to be taken out by the Captain Hook. And it looks like you inked the card that you had drawn for turn, but I'm not sure that I caught what it was.
I think it was a Captain Hook.
Gotcha.
And, I think it was something that's notable in a purple steel deck, as well as I'm sure for Ruby Amethyst, is, when you get into a top deck situation, you really do need to get yourself up to 6 ink, because if you top deck that Demona and you're not able to play it, then um, that's probably that's detrimental.
Yep. I mean, we do see in Eric's hand, we've got, it looks like we drew another Iago and a cat, but we do have this Demona. I suspect that we see Eric kind of opt to not play the Demona and really kind of keep these cards just back, opting to try to just fight the board. Because right now that Demona would draw you 3 cards, and the challenges really aren't quite that good yet.
Right. It's never good when I'm only exerting 1 ink.
No, and I mean, I I think you were thinking about it here, and I suspect one of the reasons is that, I mean, if you ink and go to 6, then you know that you can play the Demona if you were to top deck it, and if you're the one top decking the Demona, that's probably a favorable position to be in.
Yep.
Um, so we do see that
We do
Captain Hook
choose
go to
that.
the ink. Um, but we do still see another Iago and a cat in Eric's hand here. Um, and really, like, this position is a little bit rough for you. I mean, you're just kind of losing the evasive war. Um, oh, and then opting to put the genie on the bottom there instead of letting Eric draw cards. Any real reason or ideas to thoughts behind that decision?
Um, no, I think my logic maybe was that he was gonna, find an Elsa or something anyway. But
Sure.
looking back on that, I probably would have allowed him to keep the cards,
Yeah, I
or to
mean,
draw the cards rather.
I think that there's still a few draws that like could have been pretty impactful, especially with that genie on the board. I mean, drawing a cat there would have let you challenge into the genie, shift 1 damage over to the Tinkerbell, or shift your damage onto the genie, I suppose, and just finish it off. Um, because you would have the additional challenger from that Madam Mim still.
I do think what you see here too is for me, I do kind of remember this game that the series of draws were just not very powerful on my end, and now Eric has this Dumbo which he's able to trigger more than one time.
Yep.
And as a purple steel player, it always feels very rough when this kind of situation happens, because you do actually play so many cards that essentially say, I don't care if I'm top decking, I'm going to draw more cards anyway, and this just was not the case.
Oh, did find the Demona though. Though I don't know that we really see a whole lot of challenges come through, but I think perhaps we see this Calhoun go ahead and take out the Hades.
Yeah. And of course, the Calhoun is able to take out the Hades because of the Madam Mim that gives it a +1 challenger.
Yep. But
But still
notably,
losing the evasive
yeah,
war.
Eric has 3 evasives on the other side, and they can draw him. Each of them can draw him a card on the following turn. So he's kind of winning the resource game currently on the board, and like we saw kind of in the previous game, I mean the ability to kind of come back and fight these boards from behind really is starts to become kind of difficult, especially since this red purple deck kind of tends to be a little bit on the bigger side than the purple steel deck.
So we ink a Lexington, and I should get better about updating my hand because I don't really know what else is in there. I'm like, okay, we don't normally need to ink past 6. So what was the logic there? Unless maybe it's another Demona. But Lexington notably would be able to remove some of these evasives.
That is a good point. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to kind of see, and maybe you'll get it updated here in a little bit, but what the other two cards are and why we may have opted to kind of do some of those things. Demona seems to probably be a pretty good guess. I suspect that if it was a dock, we'd still probably have been able to play the whole hand next turn. We do see another genie come down along with another cat. Some very, very, very strong draws coming out of Eric's side. But also he does get to draw 4 cards a turn.
Absolutely. Inevitably, out of those 4, something will be pretty strong.
Surely one of them will be pretty good. And now it's going to be 5 cards a turn.
So we are able to clear the Dumbo finally, but if Dumbo is drawn multiple cards, it really just is too late almost.
Yeah, and we see an Elsa come down here, so again, kind of wondering what do we have sitting back in the hand?
The world may never know. I do wonder a little bit if it is a giant cobra, which is a card that you would typically hold in your hand and wait for another card, but um, not necessarily when you're at 8 lore.
And it looks like in Eric's hand we do see see another Dumbo. Um, but instead firing out the other evasives, cleaning up the board. But I suspect we see that Dumbo come down next turn and really start to kind of clean up.
Yeah, and I think this might be, well, Eric has game on board anyway.
Yep.
And we've seen that out of these purple decks for so long. It's really always about who can win the evasive war. And this Ruby Amethyst build has a lot of Iagos in it, and Iago is a card that you can get really punished for quickly if you know, have an opponent that targets it with an action, but if they don't have an action, then it can just get away with so much.
Yeah, and I feel like we don't see the evasive war quite as much as we used to, but I mean, Eric here kind of showing why those evasive wars really mattered and the advantage engines that they can kind of just start to produce.
Absolutely. And I don't really know that there's actually anything that I could do here except for, you know, we find a strength or a fire the cannons to just immediately get rid of an Iago. But I think we need to get rid of one of these genies for sure.
We got a Yzma, another Demona.
Which I think we're just digging for removal, probably. There we go. Still not enough. And I think I just say good game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, if those evasives can kind of start to take away with the game, they can be really, really difficult to stop and to slow down. Notably, some of the decks are able to kind of punish him inadvertently. The decks that are running Under the Sea, a lot of those evasives, like the Elsa and the Genie, do sit at 2 power, so they are able to kind of get swiped, but we do see Eric running the Lumiere to be able to combat that a little bit as well.
Yeah, Lumiere is actually quite a good card right now because it is not just on their turn, it's not just a challenger, it is just an across the board +1 strength. And there's actually, I'm not super well versed in Ruby Amethyst right now, but one of the cards that I think would be so fascinating to try to work into there is the new, I believe it's Eliza, which was a 3-drop card printed in Winterspell that was Ruby that says your other character's strength cannot be lowered below the printed value.
Oh, sure.
And I just think if we do see a lot of the Under the Sea shenanigans, which we have, could be really interesting. I don't know if it's worth playing, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly be a card to kind of reevaluate once rotation happens and and where we really end up, because we will lose some of these very, very powerful cards in Genie and Elsa, and those effects may start to become kind of a little bit more impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah, Genie and Elsa, probably two of my favorite cards in this entire game, but I think a lot of people will be very happy to see them go.
But that will do it for round 3. We've got one more round of Swiss, and then we'll cut to the semifinals and the finals.
All right, we'll see you then.